Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are opening up quite a stack of source material. It details a week of just incredible emotional violence, betrayal, and some really explosive confrontations.
Yeah, it's across three major families, too.
Forget slow burns. These sources are detailing, literal physical assaults and some pretty dark threats.
All triggered by the sudden collapse of loyalty, it seems.
Absolutely.
That's right. Our mission, really, in this deep dive is to guide you through all this chaos. We want to try and identify the core emotional triggers, maybe some hidden character motivations.
And the fallout, right, the immediate fallout.
Exactly. The devastating immediate fallout when trust is just completely shattered. We've got this dramatic trifecta.
Okay.
We're analyzing the sort of political betrayal within the Forrester family. Then the shocking physical violence in the Finnegan-Spencer dynamic.
Which is intense.
Oh, it is. And then the terrifying return of a character's dark side in the latest Thomas saga.
And the sources provide such vivid, almost uncomfortable detail on just how quickly these situations escalate. It's kind of amazing.
It really is.
We aren't just summarizing here. We're trying to figure out the why behind the absolute, extremity of these reactions.
What pushes them over the edge?
Yeah. We have deep resentment boiling over into confrontation. We have moral injury leading to a violent meltdown.
And devastating heartbreak, which culminates in these dark threats.
Okay, let's jump right in. Let's unpack the first major conflict, the one that's been simmering for weeks, really. Okay, let's start with a confrontation that feels maybe more insidious, more political, but ultimately just as damaging. Taylor versus Eric Forrester. And this isn't just, residual anger that Ridge chose Brooke again.
No, it's deeper than that.
It seems to be about Taylor finally recognizing and then confronting what the sources describe as this prolonged active campaign by Eric.
Yeah, a campaign to push Ridge back toward Britt.
Right, his ex-wife.
The language the sources use is really charged here. It details this allegation that Eric has been, quote, smiling in Taylor's face.
Oh, wow.
Maintaining this facade, of family pleasantness, while simultaneously, quote, stabbing her right in the back.
That's harsh.
It is. And the key here is the specificity of the action. Eric wasn't just, observing or hoping.
Yeah.
He was relentlessly pressuring Ridge to leave Taylor and go back to Brooke Logan.
That makes it feel so much more calculated. It turns the family matter into, manipulation.
Exactly.
And Taylor, for weeks, seems to have just been absorbing this sort of subtle aggression.
Yeah, maybe trying to ignore it or rationalize it.
But the sources confirm she has, quote, had enough. She's confronting Eric directly about his meddling.
Finally.
But I'm curious about the framing here. If Eric truly believes in this whole destiny concept,
right,
why the need for relentless pressure? Isn't destiny supposed to happen?
Naturally. Well, that is precisely the contradiction Taylor seems to be focusing on. And it's where this confrontation moves beyond just standard romantic jealousy.
Okay.
Eric's actions, they reveal that the whole destiny narrative isn't just some passive belief he holds.
No, it's a goal.
It's a goal he actively works toward,
right,
often at the expense of others, specifically Taylor in this case.
Right.
And what's fascinating is the source's observation that Taylor's anger is, quote, more selfless.
Okay, hang on. Selfless. I want to focus on that word because that's a huge distinction.
It really is.
If her anger is selfless, she isn't acting primarily from her own personal heartbreak, which, let's be honest, is the assumption everyone probably makes.
That's exactly right. Her motivation seems to be shifting from her own loss to this kind of protective fury.
Protective of who? Ridge.
Yeah, protective of Ridge. She is, quote, truly appalled that Eric, the family patriarch, the guy who's supposed to look out for everyone, genuinely believes Ridge is better off with Brooke than with her.
So it's like a judgment call on Eric's part that she finds offensive.
Deeply offensive, yes. It implies this deeper moral, or maybe judgmental, framework on Eric's part that Taylor just rejects. Taylor knows Ridge loves both women. She gets that.
Right. She's acknowledged that before.
But she views Eric's interference as actively sabotaging Ridge's long-term happiness and stability.
Okay, so she sees Eric prioritizing this nostalgic kind of chaotic relationship with Brooke over what she sees as a more stable potential with her. And she just can't understand why Eric would want that potentially painful outcome for his own son.
Exactly. She is essentially seeing the future heartbreak laid out plainly. She genuinely believes Ridge will eventually be hurt and betrayed again by Brooke. It's a pattern, right?
Yeah, we've seen it before. Many times.
So for Taylor, Eric's relentless pressure isn't helping Ridge find happiness. It's sending him right back into this predictable cycle of pain.
It sounds like Taylor's trying to be the voice of reason against.
Yeah.
Well, almost like a family cult dedicated to the idea of Ridge and Brooke.
That's a really interesting way to put it. It's absolutely a moral judgment on Eric's vision for the family.
Yeah.
She's implicitly suggesting that Eric is either blind or maybe intentionally harmful in his adherence to this destiny narrative.
Wow.
And she tries to rationalize Ridge's own actions, suggesting his choice was based on external pressure or some misguided sense of obligation after what happened in Italy.
So she's deflecting blame from Ridge.
Trying to, yeah. Thereby placing the majority of the blame squarely on Eric and Brooke's interference.
Okay, and this externalization of blame, this focus on their actions, leads directly to her major accusation, doesn't it?
It does.
Taylor is expected to accuse Eric of, quote, conspiring with Brooke.
Conspiring.
Yeah.
That's a strong word.
Yeah, to orchestrate the entire breakup, to get Ridge to dump her and run back to their mutual ex-wife. This feels like a really profound political accusation within the Forster family structure.
Oh, absolutely. It's just calculated malice, not just, misguided fatherly advice. It could potentially damage Eric's standing in the family.
The charge of conspiracy definitely turns Eric from just a meddling father into an active opponent in Taylor's eyes.
Right. And as you'd probably anticipate, Eric's defense is likely going to be, weak, predictable, maybe dismissive.
Let me guess, destiny.
He will likely rely entirely on that abstract, romantic notion he fed Ridge, that his son belongs with Brooke, destiny, yada, yada.
Yada, yada, exactly.
This defense is basically designed to minimize Taylor's protective stance, frame it as petty jealousy,
right,
and dismiss the severity of her conspiracy charge without actually addressing the evidence of his, campaigning.
It's classic deflection and the tragic, dramatic irony woven through this entire fiery confrontation. It's the ultimate setup for next week's drama, isn't it?
It really is.
Taylor is pouring all this righteous, protective rage, making these monumental accusations against Eric over a relationship that is already completely defunct. It's over.
Yeah, the sources confirm Ridge is already remarried. Whether or not the quickie legality holds up doesn't even matter at this point. He, quote, considers himself married.
So Taylor is fighting a war that ended weeks ago. She just doesn't know it yet.
Exactly. She's completely unaware that the final decisive battle has already taken place. This confrontation with Eric, it only achieves the short-term goal of letting her vent her fury at his manipulation.
The real bomb.
The true catastrophic bomb is still unexploded, waiting.
It raises the terrifying question, who is going to have to deliver that final terrible news? The sources even ask who will be the lucky person to break the news that Ridge and Brooke are already married to Taylor next week.
Can you imagine dropping that specific detail, the finality, the commitment, into Taylor's already heightened state of, protective anti-conspiracy rage?
It promises an explosion far, far larger than the confrontation she's currently having with Eric.
Exactly. The current conflict is over why Ridge left her. The next conflict will be over the finality of the choice and the fact that it was hidden from her. The betrayal just deepens exponentially when she learns she was mourning a relationship that was already replaced by a marriage.
Wow, that's a powerful transition, actually. Moving from the quiet kind of political malice of Eric to the overt physical rage of our next subject.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift gears completely. We move now to a totally different type of conflict. Pure, raw, physical confrontation.
Yeah, this one's intense.
Driven by extreme moral outrage. This involves Lee Finnegan, her granddaughter Luna Nozawa, and the shocking events that led to Lee completely losing control. And this entire terrifying scenario begins with, really, a critical failure in judgment by young Will Spencer.
Yeah, the setup is absolutely key here. Will makes a major mistake. He calls his mother, Katie Logan, to report that Luna is alive, but that she's planning to return to prison.
Okay.
The sources are pretty definitive on this. Will should have just called the cops right then. Full stop.
Because calling his mother instead of the authorities.
It introduced delay.
Yeah.
A crucial delay that gave Luna the time and, importantly, the warning she needed to escape the apartment.
And Luna, sensing the net tightening, she runs.
She does. She flees her apartment and runs into the first unlocked door, which coincidentally turns out to be Remy Price's place.
Remy. Okay.
Yeah, the sources note Remy is left absolutely stunned to see her. Presumably he thought she'd disappeared or maybe something terrible had happened.
Right. So this detour adds to the chaos, gives her a temporary hideout.
A very temporary one. While Will is hightailing it over to the Spencer mansion to report the escape to Bill and Katie, Luna seems to realize the coast is clear, maybe sees Will leave, and she returns to her own little apartment.
Okay, why?
Likely planning to grab cash, maybe pack a bag, and definitively run. Make a real escape this time.
Gotcha. But that plan goes wrong fast.
Very fast. That apartment becomes, quote, awfully crowded very quickly. It gets crammed with Lee, Will, Katie, and Bill Spencer.
Oh, wow, the whole posse.
The entire group that now knows the full extent of her lies and her current legal jeopardy regarding Will.
And it's Katie Logan, stepping into her protective mother role, who kicks things off, right?
Yeah, she initiates the confrontation, immediately starts yelling that Luna took advantage of Will.
Bringing the sexual assault accusation right to the forefront.
Right there in that crowded room.
Yeah.
The immediate legal and ethical implications.
And this is where the confrontation takes a really sharp turn toward the horrific. Luna's response to this accusation, it's truly shocking because it confirms her complete break from reality.
Yeah, it's disturbing. She seems genuinely, quote, surprised by the accusation.
Yeah.
Asks what?
What? Like she doesn't understand.
Exactly. The sources explain that in her mind, they were making love and it was consensual. But then they add this crucial qualifier, only in her mind.
Wow. Okay, so that singular detail, that the consent existed solely within her delusion, that's the trigger.
That is the definitive trigger for the ensuing chaos. That delusional denial is the moment Lee Finnegan just snaps.
You can almost pinpoint it.
Yeah. The realization of the true extent of the betrayal hits her not just as, like, a disappointment, but as a profound moral injury. You have to remember, Lee had just saved Luna's life, pulled her from danger, shielded her.
Right, risked a lot for her.
Only for Luna to immediately lie, sneak out, and effectively commit a sexual assault. The source explicitly calls it basically raped this poor boy.
The injury to Lee must be layered then.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
First, she risked everything, trusting her granddaughter, maybe believing in her potential for rehabilitation. Second, she discovers she protected someone who immediately proved to be profoundly dangerous and, well, morally corrupt.
The whole calculation just flips.
Completely. Grandma totally loses her mind, and Lee, quote, goes completely nuclear.
And crucially, this rage isn't just verbal shouting, is it?
Not at all. It transforms immediately into physical violence.
Okay, what do the sources say happened?
They detail the attack sequence. She first rages at Luna and then slams her against the wall.
Slams her against the wall. Okay.
Then the confrontation escalates violently into this terrifying physical assault. Lee starts choking her, like not playing, like really choking her.
Whoa. Seriously. Not just grabbing her, but choking.
Really choking her. This is a significant escalation of physical confrontation. We haven't seen something quite like this from any character recently, especially not like this.
The choking, it feels symbolic, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
It's not just an expression of anger. It symbolizes the complete severing of their bond. Maybe an attempt to physically silence or punish the source of this profound moral betrayal.
And what she's saying while this is happening.
The dialogue during the assault reflects the depth of her condemnation. Lee is screaming, quote, after everything I've done, you are evil, evil.
Evil twice.
Yeah. This is a definitive rejection of Luna, both as her granddaughter and, honestly, as a human being in that moment.
So the conclusion is pretty undeniable. Grandma Lee is officially not on Team Luna anymore.
Not even close. She is back to hating her.
And the depth of that hatred must be immense to provoke that level of physical violence, especially from a family figure, a grandmother.
Well, to understand the severity, you really have to connect this back to past events. Lee has actually established a precedent for physical intervention when her moral line gets crossed.
Oh, right, didn't she?
Remember, Lee previously tackled Luna and handed her over to the authorities when Luna was trying to harm Steffi.
That's right. I remember that. That was an act of enforcement aimed at protecting another family member from physical harm.
Exactly. That's a powerful comparison. In the past, Lee tackled Luna to prevent harm to Steffi, a clear defensive action. Here, she is choking Luna after the fact for a moral crime, the assault on Will, and the betrayal of trust, having saved her life.
Okay, so what does that shift tell us? From defensive tackling to, like, proactive choking. What does that say about Lee's character and her moral boundaries?
It tells us her threshold for betrayal of trust, especially personal trust, might actually be lower than her threshold for immediate physical threat against others. When Luna attempted to harm Steffi, Lee was the enforcer, delivering her to justice. But in this instance, the moral injury feels deeper. because Luna betrayed Lee's personal sacrifice, saving her life.
Lee realizes she protected a danger not just to Steffi, but maybe to the whole community.
And maybe even to herself or her own judgment. She realizes she protected a danger, not just some misguided girl. The rage isn't just protective of Will. It could be partly self-directed rage over her own misplaced loyalty, her own mistake.
That makes sense.
And the severity of the choking suggests that the moral collapse of Luna felt like an existential threat to Lee herself, to her worldview.
This escalation makes the immediate threat to Luna just palpable then.
Oh, absolutely. The sources indicate that Luna better run, or Lee may very well haul her down and hand her to the police herself.
Possibly replaying that past confrontation.
But with far more violence, and this time with absolute moral certainty on Lee's part.
Lee has really established herself as the character who ensures moral boundaries are physically maintained.
Even if she has to use extreme violence to do it. Yeah?
The environment is now completely toxic for Luna.
Totally. The realization of what she did and the price Lee paid for her has turned a savior into, well, a predator.
An incredible level of immediate visceral fallout. Okay. Let's shift now to our final dark confrontation. We're moving away from physical assault now, back to psychological rage and explosive threats. All right, our final major conflict involves Thomas Forrester, and he's been on an incredibly painful emotional journey just since returning to LA.
Yeah, talk about whiplash.
He came back excited, hopeful, about his mother finally marrying Ridge.
Yeah, the dream scenario for him.
And now he's completely heartbroken that his father dumped Taylor yet again, and it seems to be forcing him back into a familiar kind of dark pattern of behavior.
The emotional whiplash is huge for Thomas. That brief period of stability and hope of having his family unit restored.
Ripped away.
Just ripped away in a moment. And this sudden, acute heartbreak drives him immediately toward confrontation and blame. The sources detail an initial sort of sparring match between Thomas and Taylor herself over how to process the loss.
Oh, interesting. So he argues with Taylor first.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Naturally, Thomas immediately piles all the blame onto Brooke. He remembers his past warnings to her, telling her not to interfere.
That's his default setting, right? When his mother gets hurt, Brooke is the villain. Total villainy.
Absolutely. But Taylor, interestingly, still protective of Ridge, despite her own heartbreak. She attempts to shield her ex-husband a bit.
How?
She tries to rationalize Ridge's actions, suggesting Ridge might have felt like, quote, he didn't have a choice after everything that happened in Italy.
The Italy excuse. So she's mitigating Ridge's responsibility, trying to calm Thomas down.
Exactly, trying to soothe Thomas and prevent him from escalating, probably because she knows where that leads with him.
But Thomas isn't buying it. He's not interested in nuance or excuses for his dad this time.
Not at all. His counter theory is far more cynical and targeted directly at Brooke. He insists Brooke wore Ridge down with all her destiny blabber.
Okay, wore him down. That's different from Taylor's no-choice idea.
Very different. Thomas views Brooke's actions as manipulative, exhausting, overwhelming. He's suggesting she achieved her goal through sheer attrition, not genuine love or destiny.
Like she's a drain on Ridge's energy and willpower.
That seems to be his perspective. It's a critical distinction. Taylor's focusing on external obligation, Italy. Thomas sees internal manipulation, the destiny blabber. Taylor attempts to discourage Thomas from getting, quote, riled up, knowing his history.
Yeah, she knows that path.
But Thomas is insistent. They should have been celebrating a wedding, not mourning another broken heart. The sources really emphasize how deep the loss of that celebration cuts for Thomas personally.
And the sources also note that Thomas felt especially bad after Taylor expressed that deep hurt of realizing Ridge chose Brooke, essentially confirming Taylor wouldn't be his first choice.
Yeah. That realization for Taylor.
That his mother was left feeling like a second-rate option. That's what fuels his immediate, desperate resolve to act. It pushes him over the edge.
And if you connect this to the history of Thomas, right, his darkness has almost always been rooted in protecting his mother and establishing the Forrester dynasty against what he sees as the Logan encroachment.
Yeah, that's true.
So when his mother is vulnerable and heartbroken like this, Thomas perceives the entire family unit as being under siege again.
So feeling upset after seeing his mother in that pain,
he immediately marches over to Forrester Creations, just consumed by rage, ready for a confrontation.
And this leads to the ultimate visual betrayal. The timing is just awful.
Unbelievably bad. Thomas barged in at precisely the worst possible moment while Brooke was trying on lingerie.
Not just any lingerie.
Lingerie for her and Ridge's upcoming wedding night.
Oh my God. That detail is pivotal, isn't it?
Absolutely pivotal. It's not just catching them talking or celebrating. It's catching her in an intimate, celebratory moment specifically tied to their renewed commitment.
The scene feels designed to maximize Thomas's visceral anger and his sense of injury.
Completely. Brooke apparently freaked out, quickly tried to put on a robe, but the visual confirmation was already cemented in Thomas's mind.
It was the absolute worst thing Thomas could have possibly seen. The physical evidence of the intimacy and commitment he feels his mother was robbed of.
And there's another layer. The source also notes she was calling out Ridge's name right when Thomas burst in.
Oh, stop. That's just brutal. Adding the audio confirmation to the visual betrayal.
Exactly. So Brooke, flustered, tries to dismiss him, basically throwing the raw truth in his face. Sorry, it's over between your parents?
Ouch. But that dismissal, that bluntness, it only serves to send Thomas's rage to its absolute breaking point.
It does. He calls what Brick did to his family sick.
Okay, here comes the dark turn.
Now comes the dark turn the sources warned us about.
Yeah.
He tells her to stop doing more damage. And then he issues this profoundly ominous vow.
What is it?
That Brooke will never hurt his family again. This isn't just venting frustration anymore. The source explicitly notes that this certainly sounded like a threat, indicating Thomas is, quote, back to being dark.
This is the psychological tipping point. He's moved from being reactive and heartbroken
to being proactively threatening. He's returning to that unhinged behavior he resorts to when his core loyalty, his protection of his mother and sister, is fundamentally challenged.
How does this specific threat compare to his, previous darkness? His past stuff was often more manipulative, right? Scheming with dolls, faking illnesses.
That's a great question. Is this new threat based in manipulation, or is it just pure reactive rage?
Yeah.
The language suggests pure, dark, reactive rage this time. In the past, his schemes were often planned, designed to separate Ridge and Brooke.
Right, preventative almost.
Exactly. This threat comes after he thinks they've already successfully reunited, possibly even remarried in his mind at this point, or about to.
So the legal emotional battle feels lost?
It suggests that since that battle is lost, maybe he might resort to physical or more permanent means of removal. That's the scary implication.
Okay.
The darkness here feels less like a clever scheme and more like a desperate, dangerous vow driven by immense, immediate pain and fury.
The intensity of the showdown is just wow, and then it's finally interrupted.
Yeah, Ridge walks in, catches Thomas mid-lash out of Brooke. Perfect timing, as always.
But the interruption only redirects the fire, doesn't it?
Immediately. Thomas turns his anger right onto Ridge, demanding confirmation, almost pleading. Tell me, Dad. Tell me Brooke is lying.
He's seeking validation that this terrible reality isn't true. He wants his father to negate Brooke's claims, negate that lingerie, negate everything.
He needs his dad to make it not real. But the full scope of the commitment has to be revealed now.
And it's Brooke who does it.
It's Brooke who delivers the final, crushing blow, actually sparing Ridge that specific moment of confrontation with his son.
What does she say?
She tells Thomas, clearly and finally, that she and Ridge are already married, and, quote, it's over.
It's over, the finality.
The entire political, emotional, reactive campaign Thomas just launched, the rage, the threats, the confrontation, it was all entirely too late. The reality is sealed. They are married.
And the sources leave us with Thomas just in a state of shock. But his fury is mounting.
Exactly. His reaction isn't immediate acceptance. The source says he can't wait to find out more.
What does that mean, find out more?
It suggests disbelief, maybe a refusal to accept the legality or the speed of it all, and definitely escalating darkness as he realizes the full scope of the betrayal and the commitment.
He just made this monumental threat.
And learned in the very same breath that the battle was lost before he even started fighting it.
This sets him up as an incredibly dangerous element moving forward, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. His anger is now suspended, unresolved, and confirmed as completely justified in his own mind. He now knows the lengths they went to hide this from Taylor, which only validates his belief that Brooke is this manipulative force that must be neutralized. He's validated and volatile. #tag outro.
Wow. Okay. We have just unpacked an overwhelming week of drama here. We've defined the precise moments 3 major characters were pushed right over the edge, revealing their most extreme sides.
Yeah, he did a lot.
We analyzed that quiet, almost political betrayal from Eric that erupted into Taylor's justified, protective anger against manipulation.
Then we detailed the visceral, violent meltdown of Lee Finnegan, where a deep betrayal of trust led to a physical choking assault and that shocking condemnation.
Evil, evil.
Yeah. And finally, the desperate, explosive rage of Thomas, fueled by heartbreak and returning him to that volatile, threatening mindset.
And the through line, the thing connecting all three of these deeply detailed storylines, is the catastrophic speed and intensity with which broken trust transforms into extreme action.
It happens so fast.
So fast. We've seen three really different forms of protective rage in play. Taylor's protective anger against family manipulation.
Right.
Lee's nuclear rage against profound moral injury. And Thomas's reactive dark rage driven by what he sees as the permanent destruction of his family unit. In this environment, it seems like emotional pressure doesn't just build gradually.
No, it explodes.
Yeah.
It explodes into the physical or into the explicitly threatening.
It really makes you question where these lines are drawn for these characters. We've seen them driven to the absolute edge by loyalty and betrayal, but what is the precise tipping point? Where does that protective feeling, that core loyalty, transform into, well, absolute madness?
That's the big question, isn't it? We've seen choking. We've seen dark threats, calculated familial manipulation. You have to ask yourself, what boundary, once it's crossed, guarantees a return to a darker, more unhinged side of a character?
Yeah.
For Thomas, it seems to be the perceived permanence and the manipulative nature of Brooke's victory. For Lee, it was the realization that saving a life directly resulted in a moral catastrophe.
It's something for you to mull over, definitely, as you consider what comes next for them all and whether these characters can ever truly retreat from the edge of that darkness once they've gone there.
Can they come back? Or is this who they are now?
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the heart of all that chaos.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
We'll be back next time with more analysis of the emotional fallout.